University. She's qualified with a bachelor degree in English language, a minor in education, and a master degree in translation. She is a certified trainer and an online ESL instructor with over 12 years of teaching experience and 4 years of online instruction. Mrs. Sahar is interested in educational technology and technology-enriched instruction. Mrs. Sahar, you may start your presentation, please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Is my voice clear? Could you please type in the chat box number 1 if you can hear me well? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Nawal, for the warm greeting and the introduction, and I would like to welcome all of our respected brothers and sisters who are attending with us today. Such a pleasure to have you, and it is an honor. First, I would like to know, where are you attending this workshop from? Which city? Okay, we have Mecca, Qasim, Jeddah, Dammam, Al-Kharj, beautiful Jizan, Taif, Haq al-Hayil. Very beautiful. Welcome, welcome everyone. Okay, we are going to talk today about applications and Bloom's taxonomy. First thing we'd like to start with is this quote by Philip Rader: "A positive mindset brings positive things." And this is what I want you to start with right now, is to put yourself in a positive mode and try and enjoy this workshop as much as you can. Okay, done this? Okay. Sessions outline. We are going to start by talking about Bloom's taxonomy. Then we're going to explore our students, our digital students. We're going to talk a little bit about the learning environment, comparing past and present. Then we're going to explore 3 applicable learning models that we can actually use these days in the new situation. We're going to breeze upon teaching strategies. Then finally, we're going to talk about the pedagogy wheel, and we will leave inshallah, as much as time possible for questions and answers at the end of this session. Okay, to begin with. Slides are not moving. Okay, which level do you teach? If it's a school, which level? If it's a university, just write university. Secondary, intermediate, primary, elementary. Okay, very good. So, mashallah, we are covering all of the levels. Alhamdulillah. Okay, this will help enrich our session for now. Okay. Now, this workshop is going to act like a puzzle. We are going to discuss different parts and different sections, and then at the end, we are going to join them together to get the big picture. It will all make sense in the end, I promise. Just trust the process. Okay. First section, on a scale from 1 to 10, I want you to rate your knowledge of Bloom's taxonomy. How much do you know about it? Are you very familiar with it? So and so, maybe this is something new for you. MashaAllah, I can see that we are covering all numbers in the scale. No problem. We are going to do our best to clarify it for those who are new to this term. Okay, and refresh the memories for the ones who are already familiar with it. Okay. Now, when we teach, we do not do so in a haphazard manner, or we do it at will without preparing. Teaching is an organized act that should be well planned and should have a clear goal or outcome. The most common method to formulate clear learning objectives is Bloom's taxonomy. This taxonomy was created by Benjamin Bloom in the mid-1950s, and he wanted to develop a comprehensive system for describing and assessing educational outcomes. Now, the taxonomy itself originally has 3 sections, or 3 hierarchical models. The one that got the most attention and the most studies and the most shine and highlight is the cognitive taxonomy, or the cognitive domain. And it has 6 levels. The affective domain, which is related to emotions, has 5 levels, and the psychomotor domain, which is related to action, has 7 levels. The cognitive domain is actually related to knowledge, or it is knowledge-based, related to the thinking levels for the students. Okay, now, as you can see, the original taxonomy was kind of old in the 1950s. So in 2001, Lauren Anderson, who is a student of Bloom, and David, what was his name? Okay, who was a partner of Bloom, they made some changes on the original taxonomy. The first change that they made is that they renamed the levels of the taxonomy from nouns, and they changed them into to be verbs. And the second most important change is that they have switched the final or the higher 2 levels of the taxonomy to create a more logical, natural flow of thinking skills. Now, let us talk about each and every level in more detail. So the base of the taxonomy, we have the remembering level, and it is related to knowledge. And it's about recognizing or remembering facts, terms, basic concepts, without necessarily understanding what they mean. Like if you ask your students, I want you to name 3 types of fruit: oranges, apples, and bananas. It is not a must that they fully understand the meaning, okay? But they do remember some elements about it, okay? The second level, which is the understanding level, related to comprehension, and it involves demonstrating an understanding of facts and ideas by organizing, summarizing, maybe translating, giving descriptions, and stating main ideas. So here we are grasping the meaning of instructional material. For example, if you tell your students, I want you to list the characteristics of bananas, they are going to give you the description that it grows on palm trees, the yellow, they taste sweet, so they can give you some information to prove that they have understood what is a banana. The third level of the taxonomy is applying, and application involves using acquired knowledge, solving problems in new situations by applying acquired knowledge, facts, techniques, and rules. Learners at this level should be able to use prior knowledge to solve problems. They should be able to identify connections and relationships and how they apply in new situations. Okay, for example, back to the banana example. If you ask your students, how can banana help in improving your mood? So they need to understand the components and nutrition facts about the banana, and they would know that potassium is an element that is available in bananas, and this is how bananas can improve your mood. Okay, then we go to the fourth level of the taxonomy, which is analyzing. And analyzing involves examining and breaking information into component parts, determining how the parts actually relate to one another. We can also identify motives and causes. We can make inferences, and find evidence to support generalizations. A good example over here is compare 3 ways of using bananas in recipes or in sweets and identify which one is going to be the healthiest recipe of all. Okay. Then we move to the 5th level of the taxonomy, and that is evaluation. Evaluation involves presenting and defending opinions by making judgments about information. We are judging the validity of ideas, the quality of work based on a set of criteria. So judgment can be based either on internal elements or it can be based on external criteria. A good example over here is that if you ask your students which type of banana or which banana type is going to be the best for making a banana pie. Okay. The last level or the pinnacle of this taxonomy is creating. And when we talk about creativity, we are talking about building a structure of pattern from diverse elements, and also refers to putting parts together from a whole and creating something new. Okay. And an example over here can be that to change a banana recipe or a pie from something unhealthy by substituting ingredients or elements and turn it into a healthier option. Okay, I'm gonna show you more examples as we go on. Okay, but we need here to talk about a very important thing first. Now that we have given a general description of the taxonomy itself, usually when we say Bloom's taxonomy, we are referring to the pyramid that I just showed you, and this is related to the cognitive domain, related to knowledge, related to thinking, okay? Now, if you scan the QR code over here, it will directly take you to the table that you have in front of you. I know it's not very clear over here, but you can keep it, inshallah, in your records for future reference. When we form learning objectives, we need to use the proper action verbs that are related to each and every level. And scientists and specialists have, alhamdulillah, made it easier for us when they created such tables. Now, as you can see, with each level of the taxonomy, you have specific verbs that will reflect the level of thinking. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this part over here. When we talk about the taxonomy, as you can see, it is actually divided into half. The first 3 levels are the lower order thinking skills, or the basic skills. Okay, and the upper 3 are called the higher order thinking skills. Now, what we want to do is that we want to push our students to reach as high as they can in their thinking skills. Now, studies have shown that all over the world, we are not actually doing that. We are not motivating our students to move higher in the taxonomy. And most of the times we stop at lower order thinking skills or maybe at the analyzing level. So research have shown that the higher we go in the taxonomy, the lower the percentage of people accessing that level. And in our Saudi context over here, sadly, it is even lower than the world's average. Okay, and this is a problem that we are working on, and we are trying to raise awareness towards this. And inshallah, in the coming years, we can see a change if we start working from now. Okay, so back to our learning objectives over here. When it comes to formulating learning objectives, an important element is to choose the correct verb when you are making your learning objective. Because as I said, when you are teaching, You are working towards a goal. You want to reach something by the end of that activity or the end of the lesson or the end of the semester. Okay, now let's take some examples over here. Since most of us are English teachers, I'm going to use the grammar example, and it is the one, the third row. Okay, at the remembering level, my objective is that my students will be able to memorize the rule for regular past verbs. Just simply recite it. If I tell them what is the rule, they will tell me it's the base form of the verb plus ed or d or ied. Okay. At the understanding level, my objective is going to be, I want my students to identify regular past verbs in a paragraph. So when they read a paragraph, they can extract all of the past simple regular verbs. At my applying level, I want my students to produce sentences using regular past verbs. Okay, now we are going to move to the higher order thinking skills. At the analyzing levels, I want my students to examine negatives and questions with regular past verbs. At the evaluating level, I want my students to be able to debate the use of past verbs versus present verbs in storytelling. At the creation, now here, remember something new. I want my students to produce a poem with all verbs as regular past verbs. Okay, let's take another example from science. Okay, to check other domains. At the remembering level, I want my students to define pollution. At the understanding level, my objective is that my students will be able to discuss pollution with their classmates. At the applying level, my objective is going to be to examine reasons for pollution. At the analyzing level, I want my students to compare types of pollution and their effect on the public health. At the evaluation level, I want my students to predict long-term effects of pollution on local plants. And at the creation level, I want my students to be able to design a plan to fight pollution. Okay, let us give it a try. I want you to apply or write down learning objectives using Bloom's taxonomy. This table can help you a little bit. And of course, the list of verbs that you can use, which I highly recommend that you put in front of you or print out and keep it in front of you when you are preparing your activities and your lessons. Now just write the name of the level, like knowing or remembering, and then write me a learning objective in the chat box, please. Okay, to list what exactly, Brother Salman? To recall what? Okay, let me maybe go back to the original examples that I had over here. Okay, something like this. Okay. Remembering present simple rule, good. Structure a sentence using the past tense. To pronounce letters correctly. Recall the name of some body parts. List the steps of taking off their shoes. List colors to memorize a poem. Describe the concept of family in 2 minutes without any mistakes. Nice. Okay, to know the difference between progressive and past perfect tenses. Okay. To generate a storytelling using future form will. Okay. Good. Very good. Okay. Yes, I was gonna mention that, but just let them try and express themselves. We are gonna touch upon this in a few moments. Okay. The problem with the verb know is that you cannot measure it. How do you know that someone actually knows? Okay, very good, very good. Okay, now, why do we need Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, remember that everything that you do in your class is part of a bigger picture. When you decide to add an activity to your classroom, you need to work towards a goal. These goals or these objectives actually pull into something bigger. So the objectives of the activity are going to pull, or they are part of the objectives of the lesson. The objectives of the lesson are part, or they pull into the objectives of the unit. The objectives of the unit pull into the objectives of the course. The objectives of the course are part of the objectives of the level that you are teaching. The objectives of the level that you are teaching are part of the objectives of your educational institution, be it a school or a university. The objectives of the institution are part of the objectives of the Ministry of Education. And the objectives of the Ministry of Education are part of the objectives or the goals of the whole country, or what we are working on right now is the 2030 vision. So do not underestimate the time and effort that you put in planning your lessons and working towards something that is clear. The taxonomy will provide us with a deeper understanding of the cognitive levels and how each level actually depends on the preceding one. You are scaffolding. You cannot create something without evaluation. You cannot evaluate something without analyzing. You cannot analyze something without applying or application. You cannot apply without understanding, and you cannot understand unless you remember at least some of the basic elements that will help you and that you get those pieces of information at will whenever you need them. Okay. The taxonomy will also provide us with a more organized way of formulating learning goals and objectives. They will help us evaluate results in the light of the objectives. Now, if you know where you are going, you can actually evaluate if you have reached it or not, if you have fulfilled this objective or not. And if not, then you can evaluate where did you reach, so you would know how much effort you need in order to reach your goal. The taxonomy will provide us with a higher level of harmony between class objectives and course objectives. And finally, it will save us time, money, effort, and resources on the long run. Okay, let us reflect a little bit about this quote by Benjamin Bloom himself. He says that creativity follows mastery. So mastery of skills is the first priority of a young talent. And here we need to pay attention to the importance of mastering each level of the taxonomy from bottom to top. You cannot skip. Okay. Now we are going to move to the following session, and this is the second piece of our puzzle in the workshop. Understanding our students, and this is very important. And also we need to understand ourselves and we can find the differences between us and our students, and then maybe we can bridge the gap that we already have between us. Okay, I can safely assume that most of the teachers attending with us today are either generations X or generation Y. If you are a generation X, you are going to be aged 43 to 57. If you are a generation Y or a millennial, you are going to be aged 26 to 46. Okay, maybe we have early Z generations. Z generation is going to be aged 25 to 11. Well, I'm not going to ask which category you fall in, but for the sake of this workshop, I'm going to group generations X and Y together, and we are going to compare them to Generation Z and the newest generation that we have, Generation Alpha. The oldest of Generation Alpha is going to be 10 years old. They are the ones born from 2010 up to today. Okay, so I think first, second, and third graders are going to be Generation Alpha. Okay, now the characteristics of each generation are different. Generation X, they aspire to work and life, they have high life balance. They are characterized as being workaholics. They believe in individualism. They are very ambitious, and these are the values that they grew up with. When it comes to communication, we prefer emails and text messages. When we talk about Generation Y, the millennials, their values are freedom and flexibility, and they prefer communicating through social media and SMS. Of course, the social media platforms that Generation X and Y use are a little bit different than the ones Generation Z prefer. Okay. Now, the highlight of the generations, the Generation Z, our students, and not only our students, our brothers, sisters, children at home. It is important that we understand they do have special characteristics due to their exposure to digital technology at a very, very early age. And Generation Z, they are called the Centennials, among, of course, other names. Okay. Generation Z, the digital natives, they are the people who were born when digital technology was fully established or is fully established, and it is a reality, it is a fact. They deal with smartphones as an extension to the palm of their hands, while generations Y and X are digital immigrants. We were born prior to this digital boom that we have right now, and then we saw it unfolding in front of our eyes, and then we migrated into the digital era. Okay. Now, as a digital immigrant, I can deal with technology. I can use digital technology fully well. And this has led to something else. I'm going to talk about it in a few moments. Now, but I really need to clarify the difference between digital natives and digital immigrants. We do have different thinking patterns, and this is completely out of our hands and their hands. How so? The studies and research have shown that that the neuroplasticity process, the way that electricity moves in our brains, is completely different. And this has been recorded by MRIs and brain imaging and electrocardiograms, that digital natives, the way electricity moves between their neurons is different from digital immigrants. Okay, now for digital immigrants, we prefer to have our tasks in a single form. You do a task, you finish it, you move to the other one. We have sequential thinking. Even when you are thinking, you think about one thing, then you move to the other one. We prefer dealing with texts, or we are more comfortable dealing with texts. And when we had our education, we had limited resources. Digital natives, our students, they are excellent multitaskers. Their method of thinking is parallel. They prefer multimedia, graphics and motions, and in their education, they have unlimited resources. Let me give you an example and tell me if you agree or not. Okay. Now, you walk into the living room, you see your teenage son or daughter or brother or sister. They are sitting on the couch. They are playing a game on their tablet or smartphone. At the same time, they have their headsets with them and they are communicating, speaking with someone else. At the same time, they are eating or drinking. At the same time, when you ask them a question, you will get a response. I can't guarantee the quality of the response, but some response is going to happen. Okay, so playing, communicating, eating, and responding to you. Me, on the other hand, I find it very difficult. If I work on a computer and eat, it's either this or that. It's either I eat, finish my food and work, or stay in the state of hunger until I finish and then go to eat. Regardless of their gender, well, there are differences, of course. The percentages are going to differ, but in general, it's the same. Okay. So this is a very simple example of how they can do a lot of things, even when they are working on their computers or their smartphones. They are not working on one application at one time. They are jumping from one platform to the other, from one application and to another, all almost simultaneously. Okay. Let's move on to another point. Now, as I said, me, a digital immigrant, I can use digital technology in a proper, acceptable, even sometimes in a good way. Now we have something that combines digital natives and digital immigrants, and we call them digital citizens. Now, a digital citizen is a person who has knowledge and skills to effectively use digital technology to communicate with others, and also to participate in society and create and consume digital content. Let me give you a very good example. The Tawakkalna application. Right now, if you don't know how to use your Tawakkalna, chances are that you cannot leave your house. And if you do, you cannot go anywhere. You are not allowed, because simply you cannot use this application. Okay, so now even the oldest of us have some form of digital literacy. We are able to function in the society that has been heavily depending on digital technology. Now, as a digital citizen, you have digital information, you have digital literacy, you know about internet safety, you know about privacy and security, you know about concepts like cyberbullying, you know about the etiquette of using the internet, or as they call it, netiquette. You know about the digital footprint, you know about creative credits and copyrights. Okay, so these things are now by default embedded into our knowledge, simply because you are part of the digital era. And since we have digital citizens, we also have digital students. And a digital student or a digital learner is one who is used to this rapid communication through multiple digital devices, and they may and most probably do have different learning styles than students in the past. Okay, now what makes Generation Z or our students special? Okay, they do have a lot of characteristics, but when it comes, like it generally, if I want to combine them, okay, they demand fast responses. they are always in a rush and they want immediate responses out of you. They are used to social media, if not addicted. They are highly connected, but sadly, this has led for them to lose their social skills. You will notice that their face-to-face social skills are rapidly deteriorating or going down, okay? But when they form relations in the digital world, their friends in the digital world are as important as their friends in the physical world. They are tech savvy, okay? If you have a problem, give it to the nearest teenager you have and they will fix it in minutes. When it concerns your smartphone or tablet, while it takes me literally hours to figure out what is going on and fix the problem by myself. I can do it, but they can do it faster, okay? They prefer visual forms. They have a very low attention span. Some studies have reduced their attention span to 10 minutes. Other studies have conducted in 2016, it has reduced their attention span to 8 seconds. 8 seconds. That's even less than a goldfish, okay? But psychologists say that you have 10 minutes of attention span from a Generation Z student, okay? They always want to be entertained and they want to have fun. Miraculously, they are very fast acquirers of knowledge, but the type of knowledge that they feel comfortable with, or they like, or they are motivated to acquire. Okay, other characteristics involve diversity. They live in an age where we have no borders between cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities. They are more comfortable dealing with people from different countries and different backgrounds than their previous generations. They are very pragmatic and they are financially minded. They are shrewd consumers. I find it difficult to do online shopping and I make more mistakes than actually buying the correct item that I want. While my son, on the other hand, he reads reviews and ratings and check comments and see feedback and compare to other items in a much faster manner than I can do. And most of the times he pinpoints what he wants while I lose my money by making mistakes, okay? This high social interaction that they have made this generation characterized as being the loneliest generation simply because, as I said before, they are losing their face-to-face social skills, okay? Now let's talk about our digital learners. You know that we are preparing our students for the future and they are going to lead the coming decades and we literally, our lives are going to be in their hands, okay? But Kathy Davidson, she mentioned that 65% of the jobs that the students we teach right now are not invented yet. So you are preparing your students for something that does not have a name right now, okay? But the International Society for Technology and Education, the ISTE, in 2007 have identified 7 traits for the digital learners or the digital students. They are empowered learners. They are digital citizens. They are knowledge curators. They are innovative designers. They are computational thinkers, as we said, because they have parallel lines of thinking. They are great creators and communicators, and they are global collaborators, okay? So here, they are combining the skills of the 21st century, the 4 C's, the collaboration, the communication, the critical thinking, and the creativity. Okay, now please, in the chat box, I want you to reflect upon your class. What are the things that attract your students in the learning environment? What grasps their attention? What makes them motivated? What makes them excited? Games, yes. Videos, songs, colors, shows. Is my presentation clear? Can you see my slides? Okay, alhamdulillah, so it's not me. Okay, videos, animation, technology, competition, stories, maybe puppets, okay. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, now as people as students of this coming generation, the Generation Z and the Alpha generation, what attracts them are the following items. First, and I couldn't agree more, is the internet, the Wi-Fi. Now, it started as a joke a few years ago that they added the internet and Wi-Fi connection at the base of the Maslow's hierarchy of need, or Maslow's pyramids of needs. It was a joke at that time, but now I don't think it's a joke anymore. If you do not have internet, you are going to be paralyzed. Your life is going to be paralyzed. They love communication technology. They love this aspect of being able to reach whoever they want, wherever they want, whenever they want. They love their social networks, the platforms, and you can see this trend that every couple of years you have this new uh, social media platform that they love using, and they kind of, it is the hype and they want to use it all the time. They are attracted by programs and applications. The more, the merrier. They prefer ebooks, and this is one of the questions that I get almost at the beginning of each and every semester, that is there an electronic version of the textbook that we are using? They prefer to read their books digitally. And we said they are very visual, so they prefer to see things in front of them rather than read, and they love their visual libraries. The most famous one, of course, is YouTube. For young learners, toddlers and young learners at kindergarten or first, second, third years, they love educational videos and educational games. They love animations, they love infographics, which I tend to agree with them because you can put so much information in just one picture that you can have a glance at, and you get all the knowledge that you need, okay? And then, of course, we also have a combination of animations and infographics, which is called motion graphics. And motion graphics tend to be very, very eye-catching, and this is what they want, okay? So if you want to motivate your students, use what they like, or at least try integrating it into your class as much as possible. Okay, now you can see that our students really demand different things than we had in our past. So now we are going to compare the learning environments. Okay, I want you to tell me what are some of the characteristics of your learning environment as a student. I know it's different for everyone, but let's say in elementary school or intermediate school, how was your learning environment? Dull, sad, boring, spoon-fed. We used cassettes, okay, old technology, chalk and board. It was harsh. Well, yeah, it wasn't all bad. We are products of that environment in the end, alhamdulillah. But it could have been better, I know. Repeat and recall, blackboard, flashcards. We were serious students, yes. We didn't have much distractors at that time. Videos, presentations. Okay, mind mapping. Enthusiastic, less enthusiastic than our students, or maybe more. It kind of depends on the situation and whether you were blessed with a good teacher or not. No chatting. Limited resources. Thank you. Okay. School books. Okay, STEM UDLs. Tamam. Taking notes, games. Well, Rimas, you were a lucky person. Fun and very happy. Bless you. Enjoyable lifestyle at that moment. Okay, so to summarize what you have said and to add a few more points. In the past, for generations X and Y, us teachers, we had limited physical space. We were limited in time, limited in resources. We had limited subjects, limited teachers. The whole educational process was teacher-centered. If the teacher didn't give you the information, you wouldn't know, most probably. We had low class interaction. I would remember going a whole day with 7 sessions, different courses, and not opening my mouth even one time. We had low class enjoyment. Actually, it was kind of forbidden to laugh in the class, and sometimes even glancing at the person sitting next to you or your friend will put you in a situation where you're going to be called out. When it comes to class outcomes, you couldn't measure them, and even if you could, the results were not very reliable because we kind of didn't have a more clear methodology like we have right now. The expenses were high. You needed schools, buildings, desks, books, teaching aid, and whatever the educational process required at that time. But now the situation is different. If you haven't noticed, now we are not limited to physical space. A very good example is actually this workshop that we are attending right now. MashaAllah, we have attendees from all over the kingdom. Okay, so physical space is not a problem. Distances are not a problem anymore. We have flexible time, especially if you are doing asynchronous courses, like the ones that you have in educational platforms. You have unlimited resources at the tip of your finger. A click of a button can take you to the source of information, if it was a text or a video or something else. You have unlimited subjects. Now, you don't have to restrict yourself to the subjects that you study in your school or at the university. You can take courses literally anywhere in the world. And because you have unlimited subjects, you have unlimited teachers. The people who are presenting these subjects are not the teachers that teach you at school or university. Now the student is the center of the educational process. You have higher class interaction and higher class enjoyment, especially if you are using games like Kahoot. It's the most famous one, and a lot of people use it, and students actually enjoy it because the sense of competition and motivation that they get out of playing a game. You have better class outcomes and highly reliable learning objective evaluation. The expenses, the money that we spend, it is still high. It is even higher, but now we spend our money in a different way. Now a lot of the funding goes to the computers, the tablets, the smartphones, the application, the updating, the platforms themselves like Madrasati and Blackboard, the technology itself. Okay, so I'm not going to say that we are saving money, no, but the way we spend our money is a bit different than we used to do in the past. Okay, now as you can see, when comparing past and present learning environments, we do have a gap. This is the reality. This is the fact that we need to accept and try to work on. Now, as teachers, we are viewed by our students as dinosaurs. And this is a fact. They see us as old, ancient, fossil, frozen. Okay? Yeah, ouch, I know, but this is a fact. Okay, and on the other hand, we see our students, not only our students, the teenagers that we have around us, our children, nieces, nephews, okay, brothers and sisters, we see them as aliens with their new way of living and their language and their way of thinking and their digital lives. A situation that I face is that when I hear my students talking, sometimes, you know, they are chit-chatting and they are kind of, you know, open and they're talking freely. And they use these expressions that, I really don't understand what you are saying, but I don't tell them just to save my face in front of them. But when I go home, I ask the children, what does this word mean? Okay, how exactly do you use it? And then I give them an example. Am I using it correctly in the correct context? Even their language is different. Okay? So how are we going to bridge the gap between us and our students? Where can we find that middle ground where we can get the best of our students? I chose 4 modern teaching models that we can apply in our current situation and during the coming semester, and hopefully, inshallah, for the coming years. I've chosen blended learning methodology, the TPACK framework, and the Sahar model. Okay, blended learning, actually, there is quite a debate going on the definition of blended learning, but all in all, it is considered a combination of traditional face-to-face modes of instruction and also online learning, whether you choose online learning through a computer or a tablet, or a laptop, or you can even mix more forms of online learning, like mobile learning, which is solely restricted to using smartphones and smart tablets. So basically, you have face-to-face teaching and online teaching. This is blended learning methodology, and here at Al-Qura University at the English Language Center, we are going to apply this method to some of our courses, where we are going to teach some hours online and some hours face-to-face. I can't tell you how much I'm excited to actually start experimenting with this. And also in schools, La qaddar Allah, if you have a COVID case, you are going to go online and you are going to practice this. So you have the face-to-face and the online learning, and you are going to practice blended learning, where you can get the best of both worlds, as they say. The second one I have over here is the TPACK framework, and this was developed by Mishra and Collar in 2006. And this model is designed around the idea of content, what you teach, pedagogy, how you teach it, and these two must be on the basis of any technology that you plan to use in your classroom to enhance the learning. So TPACK stands for technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge framework. What does this mean? It means that as a teacher who is using technology, you need 3 basic things. You need content knowledge, the data, the information, the material, okay, itself that you are teaching. And then you need pedagogical knowledge, how to teach, your teaching strategies and methods. And then technological knowledge, your knowledge of how to use your computer or your smartphones or your tablets, okay? How to use your applications, how to maneuver yourself. Exactly. Using WebEx is a very good example, okay? How are you going to use these technological tools, okay, at the intersection of all of the circles? You have the TPACK framework. Now notice that between each two circles, we also have an intersection, okay? Between pedagogy and content, we have pedagogical content knowledge, and it is the knowledge that teachers have about their content and the knowledge they have about how to teach that specific content. Between technology and pedagogy, you have technological pedagogical knowledge, and it is a set of skills which teachers develop to identify the best technology to support a particular pedagogical approach. Okay, how to support the best way to support your teaching strategy using an application or a program. Okay, and between technology and content, we have technological content knowledge, and it is the set of skills which teachers acquire to help identify the best technology to support their students as they learn the content. Yes, thank you very much. Padlet, for example. Okay. So in the center, you have the technological, pedagogical content knowledge, combining all of these areas and their intersection. And this is pretty much what we are doing these days. Okay, the third one, and I like this one a lot, this is the Sahar model. Now, Sahar stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And this was designed by Dr. Ruben Fuentedura. And here, what we are going to do is that we are going to integrate our teaching with technology. So at the substitution level, technology acts as a direct substitution with no functional change. If, or not if, the easiest way to describe this is that you are taking something traditional and replacing it with a technology. For example, instead of using a paper book, you use an e-book or a digital book. Instead of using paper and pencil, you use an electronic pencil and a tablet or a word processing program. Okay, this is at the substitution level. You take something that is quite traditional and then you substitute this thing with a technology. Okay, at the augmentation level, technology acts as a direct substitute with functional improvement. Here you have enhancement. So when you give your students an article to read, they don't only read the article itself, the electronic article, they can use a dictionary on the spot to explain a few words. They can use the links to go and explore other resources. They can put sticky notes and write their own notes, okay? So this is augmentation. Augmentation and substitution are at the enhancement level. We have another level, and that is, excuse me, just a moment, transformation. At the transformation level, I have the modification. Technology allows for significant task redesign. Here, you are taking your students to a higher level, redesigning the task, okay? I'm going to give you 2 more examples. It will make the idea clearer, okay? And then finally, at the redefinition, technology allows for creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. Okay, let's take some examples. Okay, now let's say I have a task. My task is I want my students to write a report about Shakespeare's play Hamlet. If I'm going to apply the Sahar model, I can start and stop at the substitution level, okay, where my students are going to read the play as an ebook, okay. I can use the augmentation level, where they are going to use electronic dictionaries and links to understand or further understand the play. At the modification level, here, something higher, they are going to use Google Docs to write a group report about the play. Instead of each one of them making their own report, no, I'm gonna make them work in collaboration with each other. They can write me one report about the play using Google Docs. At the redefinition level, they can create something new. They are going to create an infographic about the social life at the time of the play based on ideas from the play itself. Something absolutely creative and something new, okay? Let's take another example. My task is, I want a list of the top 5 studying habits for teens. At the substitution level, they can read an article from an electronic newspaper. At the augmentation level, they can read other articles using links and resources mentioned in the original article. For modification, they can create a Twitter hashtag, top 5 studying habits for teens, to collect their data. And at the redefinition level, they can construct a motion graphic summarizing the top 5 habits. Now we can align Bloom's taxonomy and the Sahar model together. Now back to Bloom's taxonomy, and they can be aligned or merged in a very beautiful way. Okay, you can align the enhancement level, the substitution and the augmentation levels in the Sahar model with the lower order skills in Bloom's taxonomy. They remember, they understand, they apply. Of course, they are not clear-cut lines, okay? They do overlap at some points, okay? Keep that in mind. But for a general alignment, you have this. And you can align the modification and redefinition levels of the Sahar model with the higher order thinking skills of Bloom's taxonomy, okay? Moving from bottom to top. Now we are going to come to the 5th piece of our puzzle, pedagogy. We're not going to spend a lot of time over here, okay? Because this is a very big and branched out topic, but we are just going to clarify 1 or 2 points. Now, we have talked about pedagogy in the TPACK framework. What is it actually? Now, this is the sophisticated definition we have over here. Pedagogy is a term that refers to the method of how teachers teach in theory and in practice. It is formed by an educator's teaching beliefs and concerns, the interplay between culture and the different ways to learn in order to help students to build on prior learning. Meaningful classroom relationships must exist. Okay, so this is the sophisticated definition. The easy, everyday definition: pedagogy is your teaching, the way you teach, the methods, the strategies, the styles that you use in your classroom. Now, I have found this beautiful website where it lists 107 teaching or pedagogical strategies. Okay, if you can please scan the QR code. They do provide you with a lot of teaching strategies. Some of them are traditional, some of them are more modern, some of them are heavily relying on technology, and some of them moderately relying on digital technology. Explore them in your free time. You already use a lot of them, I'm sure. But now you can expand your teaching strategy library, and you can be more colorful when you are designing your activities and designing your classes. Now, teaching strategies can be something very simple, like giving a lecture or presenting a presentations or giving examples. And they can be moderately sophisticated, like doing projects and role play, or they can be highly complex, like case studies and producing things. But whatever your teaching strategy is, it should be aligned with your learning objectives that you have set at the beginning of the task or at the beginning of the lesson. If you go back to the table of learning objectives, they have made it easier for you, okay, by aligning some teaching strategies with each and every level of the taxonomy, the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. Now we are going to move to something more interesting, okay? But before that, I want you to reflect on this quote by Bloom. It says, "What any person in the world can learn, almost all persons can learn if provided with appropriate prior and current conditions of learning." This means that any person in the world can learn anything, literally anything, if they were provided with the conditions and the environment that will help them learn. Okay, now let's do a quick recap of what we have done so far before we move into our final section. So we talked about Bloom's taxonomy. We talked about our students who are categorized as being digital learners or digital students. We compared learning environments, our past and present. We briefly talked about applicable learning models that we can use, and then we breezed through teaching strategies. Now we come to the final piece of our puzzle and the highlight of this whole session, and that is the pedagogy wheel. Now, when I say the pedagogy wheel, before I show you the wheel, okay, we need to know a few things. The pedagogy wheel was actually designed by Alan Carrington in 2012, and it was originally designed to help educators think in a systematic and coherent manner with a view of long-term and big pictures outcome. So when you use your mobile applications or your programs in the teaching, you are working towards a bigger picture. Okay, now the important thing about the pedagogy wheel is not actually the applications themselves, but it is all about the pedagogy. It is all about the teaching. Okay, the pedagogy wheel brings together several different domains of pedagogical thinking, and it is actually based on 5 grids. 5 main grids that move the pedagogy wheel: Bloom's taxonomy, the students' attributes and capabilities, motivation at the heart of the process, technology enhancement, and the Sahar model. And this is why we had the different sections, the previous 5 sections we have discussed. Okay, these are the grids of the pedagogy wheel. Okay, let's explore the wheel itself. Okay, if you like, please scan the QR code. It will take you to the original or to the page where this wheel can be more obvious and clearer for you to see. Okay, now at the heart of the wheel, we have the grid of motivation, and there is a beautiful TED Talk that was done in 2009 titled The Puzzle of Motivation. If you can scan the heart of this wheel, it will take you to that TED Talk. Now, in the Puzzle of Motivation, they talk about the grids of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and how motivation is affected and effective in the, in relation to these three things. Okay. Let's see. The big one, the big QR code at the side, away from the picture that has the wheel. Okay. The ones that are inside the picture of the wheel, they will take you to different things. Okay, let's talk about the wheels. I would really highly recommend that you print it out in the biggest form that you have and put it in front of you when you are planning your lessons and planning your activities and the things that you want to do. Okay, they are saying that we have a problem with the voice. Can you hear me? Okay, so alhamdulillah, yani, it didn't disappear from everyone. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, let's talk about the pedagogy wheel. The first inner circle, you can see that the wheel is divided into 6 sections. Each one has a different color. If you start from the green one, the lime green one, this is the first level of Bloom taxonomy. Remember, and if you move clockwise and until you reach the pink rosy one, this is the highest level of the taxonomy, and that is to create. Okay, so this circle moves along Bloom's taxonomy. At the inner circle, the very inner circle, the smallest one, this is the Bloom's taxonomy. At the second circle, you have the action verbs, the verbs that you use to write the learning objectives for that level of the taxonomy. Then at the third circle, you have activities, and activities are the suggested teaching strategies and methods and ways that you use with your students to fulfill the objective that you have put with your action verbs for that level of Bloom's taxonomy. The fourth one, the fourth ring, is the technology. Here you have suggested or the most famous applications that you can use in your activities to fulfill your learning objectives. And the final circle, the gray one, this is the Sahar model. What do you think of this beautiful thing? So you have the Bloom's taxonomy, the verbs that you can use to formulate your learning objectives, the suggested activities or teaching strategies that you can use, the applications that you can use with each level of Bloom's taxonomy, all within the Sahar model. Okay, it is very useful, it is very beneficial, and it will save you a lot of time. Of course, this is the 5th version. If you compare this one to the first one, you are going to see a lot of difference. The first one was like a sketch. The higher the version of the wheel, you're going to see that they added layers and verbs and applications to this circle. Of course, these are not all the applications. You can use more. Okay, let's go and check out an example of how can I apply this. Okay, let's say I have this task. What are the advantages and disadvantages of social media platforms? Now, I asked my students this question. How are we going to organize the outcome? Okay, here I have 3 columns: the pedagogy, the teaching method we are going to use or strategy. Okay, and at the second column, I have the type of application. And then at the third one, I have an example of the application. If I want to do brainstorming, I can use, for example, a mind mapping application like Inspiration. If I want my students to research, they can use a search engine like Google. If they want to form a group discussion to exchange their ideas, they can use a social media application like Telegram. When they write their drafts, they are going to use a word processing application like Word. If they want to share their work with each other, they can use a file sharing application like Google Docs. If they want feedback on their work, they can use another social media application like Twitter. And when they produce their final project, they can use a multimedia application like Movie Maker, and this is hitting the creative level of the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, moving on. Now, with the digital era, now we have Bloom's taxonomy digital verbs. Now this is like probably people who are doing computer are going to benefit more from this, but you as a citizen of the 21st century, you can hit two birds with one stone by enhancing your students' thinking level and also enhancing your students' technological skills. Okay, so this is another chart that you can use, and it can help you when organizing your activities in the class. Okay, how about you give it a try? Choose any activity and match it with a suitable application. Let me go back so you can have like guidance. Okay, think of any element of your class, an activity that you would like to do. What would be a very good application to match with that activity? You can use, remember the learning objectives that we did at the beginning of the session. How about you choose one of those? Okay, reported speech, we can use an application like WhatsApp. Sure. Okay, how can I use Kahoot? For what? Time tenses in Inspiration. Yes, using a mind map. Okay, how can I use Nearpod? For what? Give me an application for a specific activity. Receptive recall, Kahoot. Writing using Padlet, good. OneNote, writing a short story. Okay, a puzzle for what? Quizzes for what? Writing Google Documents for group work. They can write and edit. Excellent. Collaborative writing, Word. Revision using mind maps. Okay. Kahoot for learning and playing. Okay. Mentimeter, mind mapping. Actually, it's a word cloud. Quizlet for grammar activities. Canva for mind mapping. Yes, they can create their own infographics. Edmodo for choosing random students and giving them points for answers. Yeah, well, Edmodo is a good platform. Wordwall for grammar. Jamboard for vocabulary. Okay. Beautiful. Projects. PowerPoint for projects. Mind mapping for summarizing. Google Translation for hard words. Well, yes and no at the same time. We do not encourage our students to use Google Translate unless they know how to use it properly, and they should only use it to translate single words, because the more words you add in Google Translate, the more lost it will get, and it will not give you correct equivalence. Write a summary of what you read using mind mapping like Inspiration. Socrative for grammar. Seesaw classes for sharing students' work. Very beautiful, very beautiful. Okay, the question that we always get when using applications is, where do I start and how do I choose the best application out there or the most suitable? Okay, to answer the first question, where do I start? Start with the thing that you are already familiar with. Literally, you have thousands upon thousands of applications and platforms and programs that you can use. Okay, if you already know how to use something, continue with that. Explore it more. Look at what it has to offer. Okay, and continue on using it. Okay, so this is the starting point. Or use something simple. I started integrating technology with my classes by using only WhatsApp. And I still do to this day. I expanded, of course, but I only started with WhatsApp. Okay, I used it for activities, for in-class activities, out-class activities, for discussions, for application of grammar rules. Okay, and because it made me comfortable, I already know how to use it. I am comfortable with using it, and this was my starting point. How to choose an application? Okay, the first and the most important thing that you need to keep an eye for and pay attention to is that do not choose an application haphazardly or just because it has a fancy name. Okay, it needs to serve the learning objective. As we said, the pedagogy wheel is about the pedagogy, about the teaching, and teaching is about fulfilling your learning objectives. So your application needs to serve your learning objective. This is the first thing. The second thing, the nature of the course. Now, an English course is not like a chemistry course. A biology course is not like an Arabic course, okay? The nature of the course really sometimes demands that you use certain applications and leave out the others. The nature of the students, this is very important, okay? Look at your students. What do they have in common? What do they, like for example, their level? The applications that you use with elementary school students are not like the applications that you are going to use with university students. Of course, there are things that are in common and you can use with everyone, but still, you need to pay attention to your students and choose what actually suits your students. I remember when I first started doing this technology thing, I'm not a very big fan of social media, but I do have a Facebook account. So I told them, I want to use Facebook to do some activities. The first response that I got was, teacher, Facebook is for old people. We don't use Facebook. We want to use Instagram or Snapchat. Ouch, but that was the reality and I had to deal with it. Okay, so they didn't like the idea of using such a social media platform that is used by their parents. They want something more closer to their hearts. Use the most flexible, use the application or the platform that will give you a lot of options, and at the same time it is user friendly to you and your students. Also consider the price. Okay, this applications are not cheap. No matter how cheap you think they are not cheap, especially if you have monthly subscriptions and yearly subscriptions. Okay, read about the application, explore it first, see if you like it, see if it is worth the investment. Okay, see if there is a light app, another version of the original one that comes for free with at least the basic features, and then if you want to add more features, then you can pay. Okay, also opt for apps that encourage creativity, the one that pushes your students to their max. Okay, that will take them from the lowest level of the hierarchy and can move them to the highest level of the hierarchy. Remember, these students see things differently than you do. I remember the other day I was talking to my sister, who's a Generation Z, and we were talking about the Olympics. The Olympics to me is very simple. I see what I see on television. I enjoy the game. Maybe I would comment that this was better, this was worse, this one had a good performance, she had a better performance, and that's it. But the amount of information that my sister gave me was astonishing. She talked about the players and their lives and their trip to the Olympics and the mishaps they had, and if they had previous experiences and their journey and their suffering, okay, until they reached where they reached today. So it was amazing. We were talking about the same thing, but how we preview it is completely different, and we need to accommodate that. We need to harness this creativity and use it to its full potential. Last but not least, do not overdo it. Too much applications can be very distracting. Remember, you are not the only course, okay? You are not the only subject. They do have other courses. They do have other subjects that demand their attention and time, just like the one that you are teaching. So one or two applications in addition to the platform that you are using would be more than enough to give color, to give taste, to your classes, to increase enjoyment, to keep that motivation alive in your students. Okay, I would like to end with this quote by Benjamin Bloom again. Okay, that education must be increasingly concerned about the fullest development of all children and youth, and it will be the responsibility of the schools to seek learning conditions which will enable each individual to reach the highest level of learning possible. The responsibility that we have is big, but please keep in mind that whatever time and effort that you invest in creating a distinguished learning experience for your students, that whatever you do to take them to higher levels so they can reach their full potential will pay back, definitely pay back in the future, because they are going to be the leaders of our future. Okay, I just have one final point over here that I would like to point out that whatever applications and programs I mentioned in this presentation, I am not affiliated and I do not benefit whatsoever. And the whole goal of this presentation is to educate and not advertise. Okay, one last question for you all. Did this workshop meet your expectations? Thank you. Hopefully that you have added to your knowledge at least something, one piece of information. Okay, thank you all for attending and thank you all for your time. I really enjoyed being with you and your interaction and answering my questions. This was beautiful. Okay, last session, let's say. Now we're going to open the floor for questions and answers. I hope the moderators can help me.
Yes, sure, Mrs. Sahar.
Okay, they were asking about rewatching the session. To my knowledge, that this is recorded and it's going to be on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, do you have any questions or comments you would like to share with us? The English Language Center channel on YouTube. Yes, you can have the presentations. They are going to be available for whoever who asks for them. Hopefully the moderators also can help us with this one if they want to get the slides.
We will let them know later if all of the presentations are shareable.
Okay, okay. Okay, this is my contact information if you are interested, my phone number and my email. I do respond very well to WhatsApp and SMS messages. Not so good with phone calls, actually. I don't answer to strange numbers. Applications I use in the classroom besides WhatsApp. Well, it depends actually on whatever suits the nature of the course. Since we already work on Blackboard in the university, Blackboard provides us with a lot of options, okay, to enhance our online experience. But in class, I prefer using WhatsApp until recently. Maybe in the future, I might use something else, okay, to add to my classes. I know it's a disappointing answer, but this is the reality. I used Instagram for some time. I used Facebook for some time. So I usually rely on social media platforms because they give me like a lot of flexibility and freedom to move with these students. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Sahar, for such an interesting presentation and for enlightening us about this useful framework. It does guide educators in general to develop higher levels of thinking process for critical and creative thinking. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I hope to meet with them, inshallah, either in person or online in the near future.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
we will have like 15 minutes break, and the third workshop will start at 1.